Hello and welcome everybody to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on all our social networks and to catch us every day by logging onto our website, mexiconewsnetwork.com, for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show. Apple has reported its third quarter in a row of falling iPhone sales and revenue, but sales beat analyst expectations. The tech giant sold 45.51 million iPhones in the 3 months to 24th of September, beating an average estimate of 44.8 million. The company also forecast higher than expected holiday season revenue of between $76 billion and $78 billion. But revenue in the fourth quarter fell 9% to $46.85 billion. That meant annual revenue fell for the first time since 2001, highlighting a slowdown in the smartphone market, as well as intensifying competition, particularly from Chinese rivals. It was no surprise that Apple saw its first fall in annual revenues for 15 years. It became apparent earlier in the year that sales of the iPhone, surely the most profitable product in history, had plateaued, and they continued to disappoint this quarter. It was hard to spot any product or market delivering outstanding results. The fact that Apple still hasn't released any figures for its watch tells its own story, and the 30% fall in China sales looked particularly worrying. But Apple's chief executive Tim Cook still managed to remain bullish. He pointed to the 24% rise in income from services like Apple Music and Apple Pay. He told us that he was thrilled with the response of customers to the iPhone 7 and that around the world, including in China, demand was outstripping supply. Investors have been looking for reasons to buy back into Apple, and that prediction may help continue the recent upward path of the shares. But the technology crowd is still waiting for some radical new innovation to prove the company founded by Steve Jobs hasn't lost its creative spark. Tim Cook wouldn't be drawn when quizzed about moves into TV or building a car or a connected speaker like the Amazon Echo. He did say, "We have the strongest product pipeline we've ever had, but this is a line we've been hearing for some time." Moving on. The Mexico unit of Solarcity, the rooftop solar developer controlled by billionaire Elon Musk, aims to invest as much as $1 billion over the next 5 years, the company recently announced. Solarcity Mexico President David Arelle said the project outlay will depend on Mexico keeping at current levels, an incentive known as net metering that requires utilities to buy surplus power generated by rooftop solar panels. "We estimate that if things work out the way they should over the next 5 years, our investment could reach about $1 billion, he said, noting that he sees sector-wide investment as high as $3 billion over the same period. While Mexico has abundant solar potential, it's been slow to take advantage of it, opting instead for cheaper natural gas. Net metering in Mexico is capped for solar projects at up to about 500 kilowatts of installed capacity. But Arelle expressed concern that due to pressure on public finances, the government could push the threshold as low as 50 kilowatts. That would kill the business, he said, noting that net metering was crucial to project finance, providing buyers certainty on the cost of the electricity over many years. Mexico's state-owned national electricity company, CFE, supplies power to nearly all residential users, and a 2013-14 energy reform promised to gradually dismantle its monopoly. Growth in rooftop solar projects could exacerbate steep losses at CFE, which the Finance Ministry has to cover. If the 500 kilowatt threshold is maintained, Solarcity could add nearly 2,000 employees over the next 2 years, while other developers create another 8,000 jobs, Arelle said. In other headlines, tycoon Carlos Slim's construction arm is in talks with his majority-owned construction firm FCC and rival Spanish builder Acciona to jointly build on a coveted $3.5 billion Mexico City airport terminal project. Carso Infraestructura y Construccion, part of Slim Grupo Carso, is hashing out a deal to form the consortium, which would include 3 other Mexican companies. The bid for the terminal, hot on the heels of Carso's runway bid, shows how Slim is aggressively moving to boost his construction business, while his telecoms arm, América Móvil, is squeezed by increased competition and regulation. The futuristic airport building was designed by Slim's son-in-law, Fernando Romero, and British architect Norman Foster. It would anchor a $13 billion airport aimed at turning Mexico City into a regional hub, expected to serve 68 million passengers a year when it begins operations in 2020. An Acciona spokesman said the Spanish builder was analyzing the operation, adding that the bidding consortiums were still being formed. In June, Spanish regulators approved Slim's takeover of FCC, which has been dealing with high debts following a 2008 property market crash that sent thousands of the country's developers to the wall and brought the firm close to bankruptcy. Clinching the project is far from certain. It's also believed Mexican builder ICA is in final talks to bid with Spanish firms Ferrovial Dragados, a unit of Spain's Grupo ACS and GP Construccion, to build the terminal. Ferrovial is well placed to make the winning bid after clinching a 2010 contract to build a terminal at London's Heathrow Airport for around £800 million. The bidding groups remain in flux, with two sources saying ICA could join the Carso-led consortium in a decision that could be reached by next week. And finally, let's take a look at the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.69% to 18.96 from 18.83 in the previous trading session. The peso changed up 2.07% during the last week, was down 2.63% during the last month, and was up 14.13% during the last year. IPC Mexico decreased 0.6% to 47,805 from 48,094 in the previous trading session. The IPC Mexico changed down 0.78% during the last week, was up 0.8% during the last month, and was up 7.64% during the last year. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.